lamb, which I've not had in a very long time.
Fish don't have eyelids, so that they're always aware. So you're supposed to always be aware of God. I just read that.
Huh, interesting.
Well, I got connecting to audio.
All right, while we wait like 2 more minutes. Sound good? Not that people come in last minute, but you know. And my audio is okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, I got this great little external microphone HD camera. It wasn't expensive at all, but it definitely picks up well. I think it's better than the quality is better.
Yeah, they're starting to be available again. For a while, you couldn't buy one.
I know. I got mine, I guess, about 2 months ago. A month ago, I don't remember, but yeah.
I took my director's a number of months ago because he had one, but he wasn't doing many sessions. So I said, I'm seeing 25 people through telehealth. You're seeing one. So
Yeah, wow, that's a lot.
it was, yeah. And telehealth is a lot more work.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Now I've only got about 5 or 6 telehealth. Everybody else is in the office.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. Liz, do you want to welcome folks? Although but still we should welcome people.
Well, hello, I'm Liz. I'll be running the tech side of things today. So just a couple reminders. You can chat me in the chat box, which is a button that looks like this. And you can send me any questions. We're all going to remain muted unless we're called upon due to Zoom limitations. And if you need to take a break, feel free to turn your camera off or back out of the meeting and come back in. And that's
All
it.
right. Thank you, Liz. Thank you for everything that you do, Liz.
My pleasure.
So we will begin this morning on page 140. I have to figure out why. Okay, maybe now that you put it on, because every time it keeps popping up and covering my other things, but maybe I'll put it on my other screen. And then I won't have to worry about that. Hopefully. All right, there we go. All right, so we're going to start on page 140. As with everything, when I say sing along, that means sing along with yourself muted, which I know is still, I guess we've all kind of gotten used to that at this point, but someday they'll invent a way for Zoom to do this without cacophony if everybody's singing. But let's, with Matovu, again, this is about recognizing the beauty of the community. And as Arnon mentioned yesterday, it's Balaam, who was supposed to curse the people, could only bless them. And what he did was bless them about how beautiful their community was as he saw all the tents of the community together. And so we're blessing ourselves and the beauty of this community, whether it's virtual or in person. So please sing along. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. I guess trying to do it as a round silenced on Zoom probably doesn't make sense. But if we turn now to page 172, Elohai Neshama, the blessing of the soul. And in many ways, I think one thing about not being together physically, I think it helps us to remember how we can still be together spiritually. Our souls are all connected through the divine. And so even though we are not here physically, we are connected spiritually. So this is, please join me in the Shefa Gold chant for Elohai Neshama. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehora, Tehorahi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehora Tehorahi. We turn to page 236. Beneath the line, I just wanted to include this one verse. What is a new song? When we break our habits of heart and mind, we step out of the past and into the present. What is new is what is no longer habitual. What is new is what arises out of the moment. So even though these are prayers that we know, even though this is an experience with which we are familiar, we try to make it new as well, which is true with life, just trying to step out of the old habits and to truly be present in whatever we're experiencing in the moment. That's something we often talk about in our spiritual writing group, our monthly spiritual writing groups on Sunday. So we'll turn now to page 246. So an old song, but hopefully with new spirit, maybe just to think of it differently. This idea of Esa Einai, I lift my eyes to the hills, I lift my eyes to the unknown, to the distant, and wondering from where does my help come? It comes from God, the maker of heaven and the earth. It comes from one and other as the conduits for the divine in our world. Esainai el heharim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esainai el heharim me'ayin yavo ezri. Me'ezri me'im Adonai. Ose shamayim ba'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai, Ose shamayim ba'aretz, Esra'enai, El heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri, Esra'enai, El heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, Ose shamayim ba'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai, Ose shamayim ba'aretz. So, page 262 is Psalm 150. But actually, in a moment, Liz is going to put up a YouTube video. And I thought, there's a tradition. First, we had that verse about making things a new song. And there's also a tradition on Rosh Hashanah of trying a new fruit as with our meal. Well, this isn't a new fruit, but this is a new melody of a psalm with which we're all familiar, Psalm 150, Hallelujah, which is the melody is by Mikedem, which is an Israeli group, but this is, I still get amazed when people do this, a COVID-19 version where the musicians are all over the world. And so the thing with this psalm is it's about praising God with all of our instruments and all of our souls and all of our being. So even though we can't see you, If you want to clap along, if you want to snap along, if you want to dance, whatever, please join the musicians. So, Liz? So with every breath, with every soul, we praise God. And I also love that video because it just the diversity of the Jewish community. You can really see the diversity of the community. And I also think it's a melody that is, without all of the instrumentation, still also kind of simple enough that we could use it. So, and we can learn it by using it a little bit more online. And then when we're in person, God willing, someday we can do it as well. So we continue now on page 270. with Hamelech, this is an image that I still struggle with every year. The idea of God as a melech, and it's not even the gendered piece of it, whether it's a melech or a malkah. The idea of God as a sovereign, as a ruler, as a king, as a queen. The hierarchical nature is something that in some ways doesn't speak to me, and so I have to try to reconstruct it. But the idea that the way I look at it is that there is some force in the universe that is greater than us. And a ruler, whether it's a king or a queen or a president, should be a power that connects us, or an entity or a being that connects everyone together in the best of all possible worlds. Doesn't always happen, but that's how I view the divine, as this power in the universe, this force in the universe that that connects us all with each other so that we can work together to make the world a better place. So even though the image is very anthropomorphic of God, the Melech, sitting on a throne, I, again, reconstruct it in my mind in that way, because I think the language still does have power, even if you don't totally buy into it, because it's the language of our ancestors. So we continue on page 270, and we will continue on to page 272. HaMelech Yoshev al Kisei Ram V'Nisa Shochen ad Marom V'Kadosh Shemo V'Chatu Ranenu Tzadikim Badonai L'Sharim Nava Tehila B'Fi Yisharim Titromam ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתקדש, ובקרב קדושים תתהלל. Turn now to page 276. Did I, somehow, sorry. Oh no, that's right. I didn't skip over the page. I skipped over the page, and this is right. Okay. So the Chatzi Kaddish again is the transition from our abbreviated preliminary service to the morning service. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah B'yama divrach irutei V'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uv'yomechon Uv'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael V'agala uv'zman kariv V'yimeru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach Le'olam al me'ol maya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei d'kudesha barichu Le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma v'yimeru Amen. We continue on 278. Actually, we can start with 277 with As We Bless the Source of Life. And with anything that's traditional to rise, if you feel comfortable rising or are able to rise where you are, that's fine. If you'd rather just stay seated, that's also fine. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. And the blessing gives us strength and makes our vision clear. And the blessing gives us peace and the courage to dare as we bless the source of life. So we are blessed. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Turn that to page 80, 280, sorry. As we bless nature. And on this beautiful fall morning, able to look out our windows and see the beauty of nature. But it's important to remember that we're blessing nature and God's creation. Even if it were raining and storming and horrible out, we still have to be grateful for what we have. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Or olam beotzar chayim, orot me'ofel, amar vayehi. We turn now to page 291. I'll ask Liz to read for us the beautiful Marge Piercy poem that is again part of this, the blessing of creation in preparation for the Shema.
White butterflies with single black finger paint eyes on their wings, dart and settle, eddy and mate over the green tangle of vines in Labor Day morning steam. The year grinds into ripeness and rot, grapes darkening, pears yellowing, the first Virginia creeper twining crimson, the grasses dry straw to burn. The new year rises, beckoning across the umbrellas on the sand. I begin to reconsider my life. What is the yield of my impatience? What is the fruit of my resolve? I turn from frantic white dance over the jungle of productivity, and slowly a nagoon slides cold water down my throat. I rest on a leaf spotted red. Now is the time to let the mind search backwards like the raven loose to see what can feed us. Now the time to cast the mind forward to chart an aerial map of the months. The new year is a great door that stands across the evening, and Yom Kippur is the second door. Between them are song and silence, stone and clay pot to be filled from within myself. I will find there both ripeness and rot, what I have done and undone, what I must let go with the waning days, and what I must take in. With the last tomatoes, we harvest the fruit of our lives.
Thank you, Liz. We turn now to page 298, Or Chadash. So we're asking for God to shine a new light upon Zion. So keeping in mind right now, I know we all have different relationships with Zion, with Zion, with Israel. There's Israel the dream, there's Israel the entity, there's Israel the country, there's Israel the politics. So may a new light shine upon Zion, upon Israel, and upon the people of Israel, that we find a path to justice and equity and equality in the coming year. Or Chadash al Zion ta'ir v'nizkechu lanu bimhera leoro. Or Chadash al Zion ta'ir v'nizkechu lanu bimhera leoro. Or Chadash al Zion ta'ir v'nizkechu lanu bimhera leoro. Or Chadash al Zion ta'ir v'nizkechu lanu bimhera leoro. Baruch atah Adonai yotzer hameorot. Turn now to page 300 as we prepare for the Shema, the idea of Ahava Rabbah, this great love that we receive from God, that we receive through our fellow human beings, through the love that we receive And then Shema, Ve'ahavta, the giving of love back to God, we do that by giving love to our fellow human beings and our world. So the Shefa Gold, there's a Shefa Gold chant, which actually, if I remember correctly, she wrote this when we were in rabbinical school together, which was probably when I was at Am Haskalah the first time, which a few of you I know were also around for. So it's funny how you remember, this is a chant that we've known for a long time, but I remember back then it was new. Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu, 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 Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu. So for those of us who are wearing a talit, we gather the tzitzit from the four corners, symbolically joining us with the Jewish people from the four corners of the earth, which is always an interesting expression to me, I guess, but we won't get into that right now. But the Jewish people throughout the world, that holding on to the tzitzit as we pray the Shema reminds us of that sense of connection. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha Uvlechtecha b'derech, uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha, uv'shartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uv'yisharecha. So let's continue silently 306 through 312, but Liz, I'll give it, you can decide between biblical selection 1 or 2 to begin with, for those who are following on the screen, because we don't need both of them, and then continuing on with the final paragraph on 312. Adonai Elohechem Emet. We turn now to page 318. For the blessing for redemption, which the image, of course, we have this, the splitting of the Red Sea, but I always love this drash at the bottom. The first Rabbi Judah said, is there anybody who would like to read that in English? Raise your hand or just unmute yourself.
I can.
Okay.
318. Okay. Rabbi Judah said, at the sea, each tribe said to the other, You go into the sea first. As they stood there bickering, Nachshon ben Aminadav jumped into the water. God said to Moses, who had been praying, my friend is drowning, and you are praying. What can I do? Moses asked. God responded, speak to the people of Israel and tell them to go. Raise your staff.
So what I love about this story is the miracle doesn't happen until a human being takes action. And I can't help but think of Ruth Bader Ginsburg this morning. She took action throughout her whole life, and she made miracles happen. And we have to continue doing that as well in our country and in our lives. So we continue the top of page 318. Tehilo Elyon Barachum Borach Moshe uMiriam uvnei Yisrael lachanu shira v'simcha rabah v'amru kulam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh Nora tehilot o sefelet Shira chadasha shibahu geulim Lishimcha ha'sevad hayam Yachad kulam hodu V'himlichu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Tzur Yisrael Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael Uvdechinu mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael Go aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Stephanie, if you would read the prelude to the Amidah, the top of page 319.
Don't let me fall like a stone that drops on the hard ground, and don't let my hands become dry as the twigs of a tree. When the wind beats down the last leaves, and when the storm rips dust from the earth, angry and howling, don't let me become the last fly, trembling, terrified on a window pane. Don't let me fall. I have so much prayer, but as a blade of your grass in a distant wild field loses a seed in the lap of the earth and dies away, sow in me your living breath as you sow a seed in the earth.
Thank you. We continue on page 324. And Liz, I realized in the order that I gave you, I must have accidentally deleted that it continues on the pages after that before we go to 346. So I apologize for that. But 324 will continue through, we'll just keep continuing through the Amidah, and I'll let you know when to flip ahead. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imot U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo V'Yahava Misod Chafan Mimun Vonim U'Mileh Medat Mevinim Eftechafi v'tfilah v'tachanunim lechalot u'lechanehen pnei melech malchei hamlachim Adonai Adonim. Page 328. Zochreinu lechaim Melech hafetz v'chaim, v'chotvenu b'sefer ha'chaim, lemancha Elohim chaim, Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor Lilam Adonai, Rav Lahoshia Morid Hatal, Mechal Kel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Kol Chai Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofe Cholim Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot Umidom Elach, Melech Memit Umechaye Umatzmiach Yeshua, Michamocha Av HaRachamim Zocher Yitzurav L'chaim berachamim, v'nemanata l'chayot kol chai, Baruch Ata Adonai, mechaye kol chai. Continue now on page 346. Susan Schaefer, if you would read the interpretive Unetana Tokef for us.
Let us ask ourselves hard questions, for this is the time for truth.
We'll do this responsibly, so I'll do the congregational part. How much time did we waste in the year that is now gone?
Did we fill our days with life, or were they dull and empty?
Was there love inside our home, or was the affectionate word left unsaid?
Was there a real companionship with our children, or was there a living together and a growing apart?
Were we a help to our mates, or did we take them for granted?
How was it with our friends? Were we there when they needed us or not?
The kind deed, did we perform it or postpone it? The unnecessary jibe, did we say it or hold it back?
Did we live by false values? Did we deceive others? Did we deceive ourselves?
Were we sensitive to the rights and feelings of those who worked for us?
Did we acquire our possessions, or did we acquire new insights as well?
Did we fear what the crowd would say and keep quiet when we should have spoken out?
Did we mind our own business, or did we feel the heartbreak of others?
Did we live right? And if not, then have we learned, and will we change? Thank you. So we continue with Unetana Tokef on page 348, declaring the holiness, the sacredness, the special impact of this day, and reminding us again that the shofar, the mythological great shofar, will sound as a wake-up call for all of us. And the verse is, who will live and who shall die in the coming year? Again, not literally, but how are we going to live our lives? And some of these things will happen because they're out of our control. But what do we do that's within our control to live our lives better and to make our world better? Unetan etokef kedushat hayom, ki hu nora be'ayom, uvo tinaseh malchutecha, vikon b'chesed kisecha, v'teshev elav be'emet, emet ki ata hu dayan, umochiach v'yodea va'ed, v'chotem v'sofer umoneh, ותזכור כל הנשכחות, ותפתח את ספר הזיכרונות, ומעליו יקרא וחותם יד כל אדם בו. That last verse being essential, that we each write in the book of life with our own hand. ובשופר גדול ייתקע, וקול דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפזון, וחיל הרודו יאחזון, ויאמרו הנה יום הדין, לפקוד על צבא מרום בדין, כי לא יזכו בעיניך בדין. Page 350. וכל באי עולם יעברון לפניך כבני מרון, כבקרת עדרו, מה ברצונו תחת שבטו, כן תעביר ותספור ותמנה, ותפקוד נפש כל חי, ותכתוב קצבה לכל בריאה, ותכתוב את גזר דינם. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. כמה יעברון וכמה ייבראון, מי יחיה ומי ימות, מי בקיצו ומי לא בקיצו, מי באש ומי במים, מי בחרב ומי בחיה, מי ברעב ומי בצמא, מי ברעש ומי במגפה, מי בחניקה ומי בסקילה. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. מי ינוח ומי ינוע, מי ישקט ומי יטורף, מי ישלב ומי יתייסר, מי יעני ומי יעשיר, מי ישופל ומי ירום. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. ובראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. ותשובה ותפילה וצדקה מעבירין את רוע הגזירה. But tshuva, return, repentance, tefillah, prayer, spiritual connection, and tzedakah, charity and righteousness, make easier what God may decree, make easier what life holds in store, make easier facing the world, make easier facing ourselves. Continue now on page 356 with Kedusha. עשה למען שמך וקדש את שמך, על מקדישי שמך, בעבור כבוד שמך, נערץ ונקדש כסוד שיח שרפי קודש, המקדישים שמך בקודש, דרי מעלה עם דרי מטה, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלכו כל הארץ, כבודו. כבודו מלא עולם, משרתיו שואלים זה לזה, איה מקום כבודו, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומו יפן ברחמים, ויחנם המייחד עם שמו, ערב בבוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. Hu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu, Hu Yashmienu berachamav shenit, shenit li'enei kol chai. Lihiyot lachem, Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adir Adirenu Adonai Adonenu mi'adir shimcha b'chol ha'aretz. Almighty One, Almighty One, the Sovereign who watches over us, how mighty is your name throughout the earth. The time shall come that God will reign throughout the earth. On that day shall the fount of life be one, the divine name be one. And as it is written in your sacred word of Psalm, may the eternal reign forever. Your God, O Zion, from one generation to the next. Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohai Zion, l'dor v'ador, hallelujah. L'dor v'ador nagid badlecha, u'lanetzach netzachim, kedushatcha naqdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed. Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh atah. We continue silently from pages 364 through 382. So Liz, if you just want to scroll through slowly, or you can simply use this time for your own silent prayer, or if you have the Machzor, there are also alternative prayers on 383 to 386. Actually, Liz, we can stop at 380. I like us to sing together prayer for peace, Sim Shalom. Move my camera down. There we go. Sim Shalom. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Ba'olam. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha. Barchenu avinu kulanu ke'echad be'or panecha. Sim Shalom. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Ba'olam. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Kivor panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu. Torat chaim v'ahavat chesed usaka uvracha v'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam sim shalom tova uvracha. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, ואת כל העמים ברוב עוז ושלום. שים שלום טובה וברכה בעולם. שים shalom Tova uvracha. Now we ask to be sealed in the book of life, blessing and peace and proper sustenance. May we be remembered and inscribed, we and all your people, the house of Israel, and all humankind, for good life and for peace, something our world desperately needs. B'sefer chaim, b'racha, b'shalom, ufarnasa tova, nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha, anachnu v'chol amcha, beit Yisrael, l'chaim tovim, u'l'shalom. Baruch atah Adonai, oseh hashalom. So the next prayer, Shema Kolenu, is one of the central prayers asking God to hear our voice. And this is a version that I wrote actually for our Slichot service last week, but I wanted to share it with you today as well. Let me just move it over to the other screen so I'm not looking away to the side when I'm reading it. There we go. God, hear our voices, the voices of those shouting in the streets for justice, the voices of those mourning the loss of loved ones, the voices of those praying for healing, the voices of those crying as their homes burn. Help us all find healing, healing of our country, healing of our people, healing of humankind, healing of our world. God, do not abandon us. Do not leave us to our own devices to fend for ourselves in the sacred fight for justice. Infuse us with your spirit. Enable us to demand compassion, righteousness, truth from each other, from our leaders. Enable them to hear the call to care and protect, to temper justice with mercy and love. Help them to make the right choices. Help us to show each other the way. For your sake, for the sake of all your people, for the sake of every plant and animal, for the sake of your planet, hear our cries. Teach us to show compassion. Help us to remember that everyone, everything is one with you. God, as you hear us, enable us to hear each other, to be holy, to be godly, so that we deserve to be called those created in your image, those able to hear the cries that you hear, for they are a call to action for us all, to repent, to return, to repent, to repair our world and ourselves. And now I'm gonna screen share. This is an alternative version of, an alternative English version of Avinu Malkeinu. And then I've asked Wilma to lead us in singing the final verses in Hebrew. Hold on, it's loading. Is that showing? Okay. So let's just read this together. Our Father, our King, teach us how to make this year a new beginning. Our Mother, our Queen, teach us how to grow from the harshness of life. Our source and our destiny, teach us how to accept what we must accept. Our guide and our truth, teach us to change what must be changed. Our Father, our King, teach us how to face disease and death. Our Mother, our Queen, teach us how to enjoy the gifts of life. Our source and our destiny, teach us how to make peace with our enemies. Our guide and our truth, teach us how we can best help our people Israel. Our Father, our King, teach us how we can best help all humanity. Our Mother, our Queen, let us find pardon for our wrongdoings. Our source and our destiny, let us return to you wholly and completely. Our guide and our truth, teach us how to help those who are ill. Our Father, our King, let us write our names in the book of life. Our Mother, our Queen, help us to find meaningful work. Our source and our destiny, help us to find inner freedom. Our guide and our truth, help us to learn how to love. Our Father, our King, receive our prayers. Our Mother, our Queen, teach us how to be good lovers. Our source and our destiny, teach us how to be good parents. Our guide and our truth, teach us how to be good children. Our Father, our King, teach us how to be good friends. Our Mother, our Queen, teach us how to be good Jews. Our source and our destiny, teach us how to be good people. Our guide and our truth, teach us how to be one with your universe. Wilma, if you would unmute yourself and please lead us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu Vareinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Konenu Vareinu, Kien Banu Masi, Asei Manu, Tzedaka v'chesed. Asei Manu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Emoshienu.
Thank you, Wilma. So we continue now on page 462 with Kaddish Aleim, the concluding Kaddish. And this is the melody for the high holidays. I think it may originally actually be just for Yom Kippur, but I love it anyway. So. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, Amen. V'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon u'v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'himeru amen. Yehesh me rabba mevarach li'olam olam me'ol maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpahar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei kudusha brichu le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'yama v'imru amen. Titkabal zelotahon Uva'utahom dechol Beit Yisrael, Kadam avuhom divi Shemaya, v'yimru. Amen. Yehesh lama rabba min Shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimru, v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru ve'imeru. Amen. So we are now going to virtually take out the Torah. Liz will play the Vein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, vein k'ma'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz mamo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. Av harachamim hetiva b'rtzoncha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Ki becha levad batachnu, melech el ram v'nisa, Adon olamim. Please rise if you would like to, if you're able to, as the ark is open. Vayehi b'nso Aharon, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, v'yafutzu oilecha, v'yanusu misanecha, mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udvar Adonai miYerushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. L'amo Yisrael v'kedushato. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech HaChaim, v'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Nosei Avon b'Pesha, v'Chata v'Nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech HaChaim, v'Rav Chesed v'Emet,
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Yemet, Notzer Chesed L'Halachim, Nosei Avon B'Fesha, V'Chata V'Nakei. V'ani tefilati, tefilati, Lecha Adonai, et ratzon, Elohim berov pastecha, aneni, aneni, ve'emet yishecha, v'ani tefilati, tefilati, Lecha Adonai, et ratzon, Elohim berov pastecha, aneni, aneni, ve'emet yishecha, v'ani tefilati, tefilati, Lecha Adonai, et ratzon, Elohim berov pastecha, aneni, aneni, ve'emet yishecha. And please repeat after me. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'Norah Shemo. Gadlu Adonai iti, uneromem Hashemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach, v'hahod. Kol hashamayim u'ba'aretz, kol hashamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlecha, v'hamid na'aseh l'chol rosh. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, lehadam raglav kadoshu. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
So I must say it's a little surreal singing along with myself. At least I stayed on key. So the Torah reading is on page 503, 504, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I will be reading the first Aliyah, but then as an alternative Torah reading, this is the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, which was considered one of Abraham's, the 10 trials, 10 tests that God made of Abraham in his lifetime. So I wrote a series of poems in the voices of the different characters in the story, because I think it's important to always try and find ourselves in the story. So it ends with my own response to the story after speaking in the voices of the characters. So when I recorded this, so it would just play and then I could rest my voice a little, but also that way for you, each of us to think about how the story fits for us. Where do we see ourselves in the story? And what our response is to this difficult, complex story. But for the Aliyah, just to think about how we are, perhaps how we have been or how we may be tested in this past year, this coming year, ways in which perhaps we are tested not by God, but just by life, or by circumstances, and what we can do to, I hate to use the word pass the test, but to make it through and come to the other side, having learned something, and having a new perspective to enable us to continue in the coming year. So I'll read the first aliyah on page 504, and then I will play the video of my poems, and you can just sit back and listen. Vayhi achar hadvarim ha'ele hava Elohim nisa et Avraham. I didn't do that in High Holiday Trope, which I love to do because it's only once a year. So let me try again. Amen. Vayhi achar hadvarim ha'ele veha Elohim nisa et Avraham vayomer elav Avraham vayomer hineni vayomer kachna et bincha et yichidcha asher ahavta et Yitzchak v'lech lecha el eretz hamoria v'ha'alehu sham le'olah al achad haharim asher omar elecha vayashkem Avraham baboker vayachavosh et chamoro vayikach et shnei na'arav ito ve'et Yitzchak beno vayivaka atzei olah vayakom vayelech el hamakom asher amar lo ha'elohim. So again, where do we see ourselves? How do we respond to this story? And how are we tested? How have we been tested in our lives? So I am going to screen share. And okay, that's showing. Yes? Is it?
Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure. Oh, wait, let me make sure I have the, wait, sorry, I just want to make sure I have the settings right so that it picks up the sound correctly. Yes, I do. Okay. For the second day of Rosh Hashanah is from the 22nd chapter of Bereshit, Genesis. It is the story of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. Abraham is commanded by God to take Isaac to the mountain and to make a sacrifice to show his faith in God. The very last moment, Isaac is tied to the altar. An angel calls and tells Abraham to stop. He's proven his loyalty to God. Abraham unties Isaac. Isaac goes off on his way. Abraham instead sacrifices a ram who is caught in the thicket by his horns, and then Abraham returns alone. It's a problematic story about relationships and family dynamics and relationships to God. So I wanted to offer my perspective, at least attempt to, from the perspective of the different characters in the story. Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, God, and then my own reaction. This is the binding. Bound faith. Yitzchak, my name. Yitzchak, a verb. He shall laugh. I cannot laugh. The name itself, a cruel joke. They made a mistake. It should have been Yitzhak. He shall cry out. No, not even that is right. I am not a verb. I do not act. I simply am. I know not precisely who or what. Let father decide. Let mother decide. Let God decide. Let me decide? That's absurd. That makes me laugh. But there is no one to hear. I am alone. I have left my parents' house. Still, I carry it within me. I have left the place of my birth. Perhaps now I can finally be born. I have left the land, my piece of earth, which was never really mine. Only one spot belongs to me. The place where I was bound, the place where I was willing to give up my life, myself, for my Father, for his God, my God. The place where I was prepared to act, to finally become a verb, a man, by doing nothing. Inactive action, courageous folly. In that place, at that time, I became human. I became one with God, Father, Mother, all. I realized in that moment, I am not alone, yet I am alone. In that moment, I was bound not to the altar of fire, I was bound to the altar of faith. Bound faith, not blind faith. Faith in the one who gave me life upon that altar. The moment I surrendered is when I chose to act, to do, to make a difference, to live by allowing myself to die. I pray I can continue to act, to make a difference, to become a blessing. I begin my journey to the place not shown, to the place I will find myself, step by step. Perhaps that is the point. Each step of the journey is a destination, the place of the divine where we are meant to be, to live. Each place both ending and beginning, in each place able to bind ourselves to the one, to the all, the moment. That is the essence of the sacrifice, the journey of being alive. Sarah's test. Why did I let him leave? How could I not? My son, my only one, whom I love more than life itself, is no longer here with me. I could not look, I could not hear. I could just sit there in my tent, surrounded by God's light, afraid I would fail the test, rise up from my place, run to him, embrace him, prevent him from going, growing, living, leaving. But I did not. I passed the test. I held my screams, tears, fear, self inside. I allowed him to leave with his Father, knowing only one would return. This was the only way to fulfill God's promise, to let him go into the wilderness, the unknown, where we came from, trusting in God, trusting in Abraham, trusting the voice in my soul, a soul torn from my body the moment I could no longer hear his voice, see his face, the moment I realized that he was no longer mine, as he should not be. Perhaps now he will become who he was meant to be, Yitzchak, a child of laughter. I remember my laughter, disbelief, when told I would give birth, Abraham's laughter, incredulity, joy. But did Yitzchak's laughter ever exist? Yes, a memory, a shadow, a childhood long cut short, the moment he realized he was not to be like others. In the days before, my fear, jealousy, hatred, masquerading as love, tore him away from his brother, the one, the only one he loved, and who made him feel like he was not alone. Perhaps now he will laugh, live, fulfill the promise, create a people like sands on the shore, stars in the sky, shining brightly with the faith of his Father, able to shift, to change like his mother, with ebb and flow, constantly changing impermanence, trying to build a life on hopes and dreams that never turn out quite as we imagine. I do not know. I can only pray this shall be. Now I am alone, sitting in my tent, God's light shining above. This is more than enough. These days have been longer, one night lasting an eternity, the sun remaining in hiding, never rising, never setting, only darkness. My last night. In the distance I see 3 figures, 2 servant boys who I don't know, and a man I know well, with whom I have shared lifetimes, bent over with sorrow and age. He has passed his test. I see no one else. That is enough. It is done. Nothing more to do but breathe and wait for God to descend, to return my soul to its source, to someday be reunited with the soul that came into the world through me, filling me with laughter, joy, blessing, who will now do so for those yet to come. I am ready to die, to be reborn, to wait to see what comes next for him, for me, for us all. After the ram. The slaughter was easier than I had imagined. The sacrifice was not what I had thought. Or was it? I did not need to kill him. I needed to kill the part of him within me. The ram trapped in the thicket by its horns, a father trapped in the moment by his fear and joy, a son set free at last by the one who kept him bound all these years. I saw the ram. I knew what to do. As in a dream, I untied the boy, looked at him. He turned away. I turned my back, knowing I would never see him again. I took my time, not wanting to turn around, to see the inevitable. Nothing, no one. He was gone. The ram struggled to be free. I struggled to give freedom. I bound the ram. I saw his face. I slaughtered the ram. I saw my tears. I burned the body on the altar. I saw God smile. I returned home. I saw her scream. At that moment I knew the journey was over. The journey had just begun. Yitzchak, my child of laughter, not that day. I had only to slaughter a ram, to sacrifice a relationship. I had no choice but to choose this path. Now we are each on our journeys, destinations the same, unknown. As I walked down the mountain to return, I feel something in my hand. I look down. I see a horn, reminder of what happened, of what did not, of my test and his. I still have it, still sound it, today, to remember that moment, all that I lost then, all that I have now, which will also be lost, as everything is. After the ram, nothing was the same. Before the ram, nothing was different. So it is before each moment, after each moment, a life continuing, trial to trial, sacrifice to sacrifice, joy to joy, sorrow to sorrow, breath to breath, until it ends, which it never truly does. The trial of God. It is finished. It has just begun. Neither, both. It simply continues. Why did I test them? Why did I need to test me? Why could I not have faith in my creations? Why did I need to know the answer which really remains unknown even after the test? My children showed me the meaning of faith. What have I shown them? The meaning of testing, trying, manipulating, not really faith. But no, I have shown them the meaning of mercy, forgiveness, trust in the moment in which they chose. Each one unique, the test, the subject, the response. Each one bears witness to the faith in me, in the part of me within them. That is them. Faith in relationship, interdependence, unity. At least that is what I tell myself. The answer, we are one. I thought I knew that then. I truly know that now. They did not forsake me. I did not abandon them. I tested them. They turned to me for strength, knowing I was the source of their pain. What amazing creatures I have made, to be separate yet a part of me, of everything. I know I have caused suffering. Son torn from father, father sacrificing son, mother sacrificing all, soon to die, to rejoin her source. A family torn asunder, yet always bound together with me, within me, through their faith. Perhaps this is not a consolation in this moment. Perhaps one day it will be. Does that matter? After all is finished, I know I do not want, or is it need, to test anymore. Yet I know I will continue testing them and me, one and the same, so I can remain certain of the only thing that is certain, permanent, reliable. Relationships. All are bound together for eternity. No them, no other, only one. That is the answer to the test, the divine human equation, one. I passed the test, so did they. They always will, if we, look within to our soul and not without, to find the answer, the truth of one. What about me? Why? Who? What? I don't understand. Why should I care about any of it? They are foreign, strange, unknown. I pity them. Father sacrificing son and self, mother sitting in silence, enabling all, son risking all for what? God, self-centered, manipulative, needing to know the truth even if it kills them. Leave me alone. I do not want to know you. Yet I must. I do. For you are all within me, within us, our spiritual DNA. No, I refuse to believe this is the truth. I would not sacrifice for any god. I would not abandon a child. I would not risk my life to prove my loyalty. I would not ask the unaskable of those I claim to love merely to serve my needs or calm my insecurities. Or would I? Have I? Will I again? Don't we all? No, I do not believe with complete faith that this is the truth. Yet I know with complete faith that it is. Love, sacrifice, pain, surrender, fury, resignation, all are part of life for us. Because we are human, we make mistakes. But what about God, our image, our source? We do not want to cause pain. Still we do. We do not want to test the limits of faith, of love. Still we do. We do not want to sit inactive, allowing the plot, life, to unfold before our eyes, unable or afraid to stop it. Still, we do. We do not want to sacrifice the self, to find the truth, the one. Still, we must. Why? Why can it not be simple? No pain, no test, no sacrifice, no surrender. Because without pain, testing, sacrifice, surrender, life would not be life. We would not act. We would simply exist without truly being. We would be like Isaac without laughter, never able to leave home, or Abraham in his tent sitting welcoming guests, never going beyond his comfortable boundaries. Sarah protecting precious possessions, maintaining the status quo, never allowing for freedom, growth, living. God, uncertain how far each will go, what each will do as proof, to surrender to divine will, to walk the path step by step, to continue the work of creation. I do not like them, yet I love them. I know them, their actions, their feelings are a part of me. I am part of them, part of the plan, whether I accept it or not. Living brings pain. But pain becomes suffering when we do not take action, when we do not try in our hearts to connect to something greater, when we deny the truth of the call of the divine, whatever that is, within us. Perhaps this is what they are all trying to teach us, their descendants and creations. Still, I don't like the players. I don't like the author. I don't like the plot. Yet I watch it unfold within, around, even now. I feel the pain and know there is something greater I must learn so it does not become suffering. I wish there were an easier way to learn it. Maybe next year. Hashanah Tova. So, as I said, just think about where each of us fits in the story. If people want to talk about it a little, we can do that after the services, because I am cognizant of the timing. So I would like us now to actually, we're going to skip over those poems, because we're going to go to Misha Berach next. Offer a prayer for healing. So if there are those for whom you would like to ask healing, if you want to put their names in the chat. Liz, I realized I didn't get the list from you. Do you have it handy by any chance?
Mute. Okay, give me 1 second. Risa Dorfman, Susan Panic, Doug Smith, Anita Goldman, Henry Luffman, Jacqueline Panic, Simeon Maslin, and Larry Rosenblum, and Susan Floor.
Michael Drake. We also have in the chat Mo and Susan Schaefer's father. And all those who are suffering from COVID-19, all those who are suffering because of the fires on the West Coast, and all who are suffering in our world today. We will let Debbie Friedman lead us in the Misha Berach. So may all those in need of healing find that healing, and all those who are caregivers and all those in the healing professions find the strength from the divine, enabling them to bring healing, wholeness, care, and compassion to all those in need. Liz, I'm just going to give you a heads up that we're going to skip a few of the things just because my timing is a little off. So, but I think it's important that we read a prayer for peace on page 584. Would somebody like to lead it? Somebody like to read it?
I will if nobody else.
Okay,
584.
584, yeah.
Wait, let me just make this larger, sorry. Okay. The man under his fig tree telephoned the man under the vine. Tonight they definitely might come. Assign positions, armor plate the leaves, secure the tree, tell the dead or to report home immediately. The white lamb, leaned over and said to the wolf, "Humans are bleeding, and my heart aches with grief. I'm afraid they'll get to gunpoint, to bayonets in the dust. At our next meeting, this matter will be discussed. All the nations united will flow to Jerusalem to see if the Torah has gone out. And then, inasmuch as in spring, they'll come down and pick flowers from all around, and they'll beat swords into plowshares and plowshares into swords, and so on and back and forth. Perhaps from the beginning, perhaps from being beaten thinner and thinner, the iron of hatred will vanish forever."
Thank you. I think that poem, as with so many things by Yehuda Amichai, really says a lot about our society and what hopefully can happen. We're going to have the shofar service now. Actually, can we do 586 instead of 585? And would somebody like to read on the bottom of the page, Richard Levy's reading? If not, I'll do that, but would somebody else like to? Okay. There are sounds which we heard as children, which have engraved themselves like ancient riverbeds, long dry, into our inner ear. Years later, when we've grown, those early sounds will open up those ancient streams, and the place and moment of that early music will flow again across our memory. And we are at once transported there, splashing in the cool spray, like the children we still are, with all the joy and playfulness and awe we thought had dried up in our long-sought maturity. Buried even deeper in us than our childhood is the childhood of our people, when we were wandering and playing at the foot of Sinai, full of wonder and confusion, as the clouds appeared and holy fire and thunder voices out of heaven and the sounds of a shofar. Each year when the shofar sounds for us again, the cloud appears above the riverbed of memory, and we know that if sufficient wonder and confusion fill our minds, the holy fire will burn once more, and voices from our modest shofar will thunder out of heaven once again. If only we can listen, the moment and the place will flow again, and we can splash with the child our people was at the beginning in the stream. So now we'll listen to the sound of the shofar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmo kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'hikianu lazman hazeh.
Tekiah. Shivarim Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shivarim Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shivarim Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shivarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shivarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shivarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah Gedolah.
Well, I made one mistake in there, but otherwise, thank you for helping that. Thank you for doing that, Liz. So now we're actually going to symbolically return the Torah to the Ark, which means one more video.
Hallelujah, et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado, hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren le'amo, tehila lechol hasidav, libnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah, uvnu po yomar. Ki lekavto natati lachem torati al tazovu et chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva adesh yameinu kekedem.
So we will now do an abbreviated, traditionally from the Musaf, the Malchuyot, Zichronot, Shofrot verses. We're actually going to jump ahead to 612, the great Aleinu. Again, this is where Aleinu comes from originally, and just reminds us of the importance sometimes of pressing down the ego, of letting go of the ego. I think that's really what prostration is about, reminding us of that we're just a small part of the universe. So for those who wish to, please rise, page 612. And those who wish to prostrate themselves certainly may do that as well. Aleinu lishabeach la'adon hakol latet gedula liotzer bereshit shenatan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Vanachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. May be seated. We're going to move ahead to page 648 for Zichronot. So the Malchuyot is about the sovereignty of God, reminding ourselves that there is something greater than ourselves. The Zichronot is about remembering the past, remembering our connections, remembering our connections to the divine, our connections to our history. On page 648, Zichron note reading number 2. Would somebody like to read that?
I can do that.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
Humans differ from the rest of living creation mainly in the possession of self-consciousness. Other creatures live from moment to moment. If they have memories, they are not aware that those are memories. If the future in any way determines their actions, they have no mental picture of that future. The consciousness of history is the consciousness of that larger self, which one shares with one's fellows. Individuals are centuries, if not millennia, older than their chronological age. But people who have a historical consciousness actually feel that the life they live extends far beyond the actual life of their bodies. Conscious of the experiences of the past, attached by a kind of umbilical cord to the history, the culture, the civilization of centuries, the individual's being becomes coextensive with the being of their peoples. The individual enjoys, as it were, an earthly immortality.
Thank you. The shofarot verses are traditionally verses about sounding of the shofar from the Tanakh, from the Torah, from the Bible, reminding us of the shofar as a call to wake up, to remind us of our connections. So if we turn to page 662, shofarot reading number 3, which is another beautiful poem by Marge Piercy. Would somebody like to read that? Okay, Wilma, unmute yourself. Thank you.
Beat, beat, drums,
No,
blow.
the number 3, the one right beneath it.
Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot always tell by looking at what is happening. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure, make love that is loving. Keep entangling and interweaving and taking more in, a thicket and bramble. Wilderness to the outside, but to us interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and lairs. Live as if you like yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always, for every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes.
Thank you. In the Machzor, they include the song Kol Ha'olam Kulo. The world is a narrow bridge, and the essential thing is not to be afraid. And let's face it, things are difficult. Right now, I think feel like we're really walking on this precariously narrow bridge, and it is scary. But even though we can't be next to each other, we can hold onto each other from behind, from in front, and together we can make it across the bridge. There's a beautiful version of this recorded by the choir and band of Congregation Beit Chaverim, the Reconstructionist Synagogue in Atlanta, and Rabbi Josh Lesser's husband put together a really wonderful video. And this is a mashup of Kol Ha'olam Kulo and Tears for Fears song, Mad World.
of familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for the daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere, and the tears are filling up their glasses, no expression, no expression, hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow, no tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kind of funny, yes, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I ever had. I find it hard to tell you, yes, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world. Children waiting for the day they feel good. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Made to feel the way every child should. Sit and listen, sit and listen. I went to school and I was very nervous. No one knew me, no one knew me. Hello teacher, tell me what's my lesson. Look right through me, look right through me. And I find it kind of funny, yes, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I ever had. I find it hard to tell you, yes, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world.
So walking that narrow ridge through what is a mad world, and yet it is our world, with challenges, with tests, with beauty, with violence, with everything. It is all part of our world, and we have to, after this day and after Yom Kippur, we must go out and we must do what we can to make a difference. We must do it now. Each day we must do it. I was going to do the interpretive Hayom, but if we want to do, does somebody want to lead a pickup Hayom choir? I know Jenny's not here today, but I had forgotten about Hayom choir until yesterday. I don't know how I could ever forget that.
I think I can, maybe.
Okay, so Hayom. So if everybody, even with the cacophony that it makes, I thought it was great everybody doing it together. So the actual Hayom is on page 674. So if you want to unmute yourself, please feel free to do that. If you want to rise, please feel free to do that. If you want to stay muted, please feel free to do that.
And remember, everybody, we go up on the third one. And we'll all screw it up together. Hayom, hayom, hayom. Hayom, hayom, hayom. Hayom, hayom, te'arteinu. Amen. Hayom, 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 hayom. Hayom, 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 tevarheinu. Amen. Hayom, 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 hayom. Hayom, hayom, tegadleinu. Amen. Hayom, 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 hayom. Hayom, tidrashenu, tidrashenu latova. Amen. Hayom, 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 hayom. Hayom, hayom, tarheinu lahayim tovim. Alam hayom, 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 hayom. Pishma shevteinu. Amen. Amen. Hayom, hayom, hayom. Hayom, hayom, hayom. Tekabel barachmim berutotzenu et tefilatenu. Amen.
Hayom,
Hayom, hayom, hayom. Tit mechenu bimi tzedekah. Amen.
Thank you, Rachel. You did us all proud.
Typical Zoom.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we're gonna actually jump ahead to 12:01 to Aleinu. Please rise if you would like to. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shenatan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Page 1206. Kakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch leolam vahed, v'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, Ushemo echad. You may be seated. So this is, we have to take a vote on this one. So I felt like I wanted to do something in memory of Ruth Bader Ginsburg today. And I thought, well, I know one thing that she and I had in common, besides being Jewish, was our love of opera. And there was a beautiful recording by Aryeh Nussbaum Cohen, also Jewish, in case you didn't figure that out from the name Aryeh Nussbaum Cohen, who is was one of the winners of the Metropolitan Opera's competition a couple of years ago. He is a countertenor with a magnificent voice, and he has a recording of Maurice Ravel's setting for the Kaddish, which is based on the High Holidays melody. So if we do that before Mourner's Kaddish, that'll take us about 5, we'll finish about 5 after 12. Is that okay with everybody? I just think, I find it very moving, and I have a feeling that Ruth would approve. So Liz, you wanna? Zichrona livracha, may the memory of the righteous be a blessing. Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 1215. Even though technically we're not supposed to say Kaddish yet, certainly keeping Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in our hearts and our minds. If there are others for whom you'd like to say Kaddish at this time, or names you'd like to mention, you please put them in the chat. I know we mentioned this week's yard sites yesterday on Shabbat. Keeping in mind all who have died during the current epidemic, all those who have died due to violence and war.
Edie Shanker.
Yes,
Adrian's grandmother just passed
yes.
away.
Yes, thank you. So again, 12:15, Mourner's Kaddish. If it's your custom to rise, please do so at this time. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yamad Divrach Yerutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayechon V'yomechon, V'chayeh D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agala V'zman Kariv Yimru Amen, Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, Lelam Alalmei Almaya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei D'kudsha, B'richu, Le'ela, Le'ela, Mikol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbachata V'nechamata, Damiran V'alma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shalom Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'imru Amen. May the one who makes peace on high make peace here on earth for us, for all Israel, for all humankind, and let us say Amen. So thank you again to Liz for running everything so smoothly and for jumping around with me at the end there. And thank you to everyone who was here today and yesterday. And I wish everyone a Shana Tova U'Metuka, a happy and a sweet new year. We've got a lot of work ahead of us this year, but right now we can celebrate and prepare for the future. I wanted us to end with Oseh Shalom, a prayer for peace. And there's a wonderful video by Nava Tehila, the Israeli group. They have a Shabbat service every week. And they're actually the ones who originated this particular melody, which also includes Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel in it. So I thought we would go out with their video. And if anybody wants to stay on afterwards to schmooze a little or talk about anything, please feel free to do so.
Shalom Aleinu, ve'atol Yisrael.
May all of us and our world be blessed with peace. Shana Tova. And Gemar Chatima Tova. May you all be sealed for a good year 9 days from now.
Shana Tova, everybody.